everyone, welcome back to the Library of Parthos. My name is Sarah, and today we are talking about an early release copy of a book that I was so excited to read. I love NetGalley for so many reasons. I mean, obviously it's great to be able to read books before they're actually released, and to, you know, be a part of that process and them getting published and having reviews like already out there for readers who are interested in them. But I just think it's so cool because what I found is that I'm getting to explore a lot of books that I wouldn't necessarily pick up if they were at like a Barnes & Noble, but they're available on NetGalley, so why not give them a shot? And I kind of feel the same way about Kindle Unlimited too. Like, there are some books on there that I think I wouldn't want to buy this book, and I don't know that I'd really want to kind of wait for it through a library system, but it's available on Kindle Unlimited, so I may as well give it a shot. And that is one of the things that I really like about NetGalley. And every once in a while, there's a book that I am so excited about, and I get to talk about it, and it just makes me so happy. So that is what happened today. This book is one that I have been super excited about since I found out that it was coming out, and that actually wasn't very long ago. So the book that we're talking about today is I Am Made of Death by Kelly Andrew. I just have it on my phone through the NetGalley app. This book, this author, I am just falling in love with everything that she writes. So a little backstory, I first read a book by Kelly Andrew last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember exactly what the date was, but it was The Whispering Dark. Loved that book, named my Hogwarts Legacy character after the main character in that book. I do have a full review of that book that I will link if you are interested. And it was great. And then a couple of months ago in an Owl Crate box, there was another book that she had just recently published, Your Blood, My Bones, which is still haunting me, believe it or not. Like, I was not okay after I finished that book, and I don't think that I'm okay yet. Anyway, I do have a full review of that book as well. So when I was kind of stalking her Instagram after the release of that book, I saw that she was posting I Am Made of Death, her up-and-coming book that would be published within the next couple of months. So of course, I did what any sane person would do. I stalked NetGalley every couple of days until I found it and got to read it, and it was everything that I dreamed it would be. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Hopefully I can influence you to buy this book when it is eventually released, and definitely to get on board this Kelly Andrew train. So as always, we will start with a very quick spoiler-free summary, then we'll move into spoilers, and of course I'll share my thoughts on the story as we go. So this is a dual point of view story. We have two main characters, Vivian Farrow, who is a deaf dancer, let's call her that, and Thomas Walsh, who is her interpreter slash bodyguard of sorts. They're an unlikely pair who are kind of stuck together when Vivian's stepfather hires Thomas to kind of keep an eye on her. Of course, if you know anything about Kelly Andrews' books, there are some supernatural, shall we say, darker elements at work coming into play through Vivian's past that Thomas is kind of thrown into, in addition to just interpreting and keeping an eye on Vivian. So together they kind of have to work through this difficult situation and figure out a solution that will let them both keep their lives and the lives of the others that they care about in the story. So I think that's all I want to say spoiler free. Let's go ahead and get into spoilers of this book. Okay, so as I mentioned, our two main characters, Vivian Farrow is like early 20s, maybe 18, 19, 20, somewhere around there. She, I'm just gonna like put it all out there so that we all understand what's going on in this story. When she was about 4 years old, she kind of got lost in the desert, fell down this hole, broke her leg and was kind of stuck down there. And there was this kind of dark force down there whispering to her that it could help her. And so she said, yes, please help me. I mean, she's a 4-year-old girl. Of course she did. So when she got back home, everything was fine. But over the years, as she grew, she started to notice that things were a little bit different. The more she spoke, these really terrible things were happening to people. Her reflection wasn't necessarily reflecting her anymore. It was something new. And after so many years, simply out of the need to protect others from herself, she stopped speaking altogether and just used sign language to communicate. Because of all these things that have been happening, her stepfather has kept a really close eye on her, has kind of really limited the things that she's allowed to do. So she is allowed to go to community college and participate in their dance program. Thomas Walsh has recently dropped out of college because he can no longer afford the tuition and the medical bills that are required for his mother. He's looking after her and his 15-year-old sister. And in looking for a job that would pay a little bit better, he was contacted by Philip Farrow, Vivian's stepfather, and offered this position because he is able to sign, because his mother is also deaf. And there are some other connections that have kind of been discovered as well. He's a part of this fraternity at his college that Philip Farrow had some connections to as well. And he thought because of the things going on with that fraternity that Thomas would make a good fit to work with Vivian and her needs, let's say, because of all the craziness that happens with her. So that's a little bit of a background on our two main characters. So plot-wise, the book begins with Thomas getting this job and going to meet Philip and his wife Amelia and kind of learning a little bit about Vivian. Of course, they don't mention anything about this, I don't know, for lack of a better word, a demon that's kind of living inside of her. They just say that, she's very special. She needs a lot of attention. They kind of really sugarcoat it. And he has absolutely no idea what he's walking into, other than the fact that she uses sign language and he can use sign language as well. And he is getting paid a lot of money to do this job, and that will be really helpful for his family. Initially, they really butt heads. They do not get along at all. He's constantly trying to find out where she's going, what she's doing, and she feels like it's a real big invasion of her privacy and that he is just feeding information to her stepdad. So she's really reluctant to spend any time with him at all. And there are quite a few instances where they just kind of bully each other. So he does something that upsets her. She goes into his closet and cuts up all of his suits and ties and everything. They're really, really at odds with each other for the first couple chapters of the book, maybe even the first half, I would say. We get a lot of glimpses into this alternate version that Vivian sees when she looks in the mirror. It's her, but with, eyes are wider apart, the smile is elongated, her fingers are longer and have extra joints, her nails are black. And so it's her, but it's not. And there are several times throughout the book where she's kind of communicating with this creature on the other side of the mirror. I don't know that I necessarily had a fear of mirrors before reading this book, but I may have started brushing my teeth a little bit faster after reading it. Vivian is essentially a siren, and she's referred to as a siren throughout several parts of the book. So if she speaks, she can kind of poison the mind, essentially. It's not necessarily a make sailors fall in love with you and then kill them sort of situation. It's more she can kind of put hallucinations into their head and also just kill them, flat out kill them. So there's her former bodyguard person before Thomas. She killed him by mistake. Later in the book, there's the son of a competitive company. Her stepfather kind of uses her abilities to take out the competition, and she causes this the son of the, I don't know what he is, the president of the company, to have a heart attack. So she's very dangerous. And also, she's not always in full control, and I think her control has been waning as time goes on. So she's kind of had enough, and in her desperation, she's done some research online and found a thesis that's essentially saying, in some cases, an exorcism can basically be performed through surgery. And so Vivian finds the author of that paper, who's another student at the same college that she's going to, and asks him essentially, can you perform this operation? I'm willing to pay whatever you need. I'll get you whatever resources you need. I just need you to do it. And he said, you know, this is all theory. This has never been proven. I'm just a medical student now. I've never actually performed a surgery in my life. But she is very convincing, and she's able to convince him. She's able to convince other people to get her all of the things that she needs. And so this surgery is scheduled, and it's going to take place. And she's willing to do it whether she lives through it or not, because she is tired of hurting people that she cares about. So the more time that Thomas spends with Vivian, the more that he learns about this like demon inside of her. There's actually a point where, so he's standing with his back to the mirror and she's facing him. And as they're having a conversation, her like twisted reflection is like putting its hands on his shoulders, and then he like brushes his shoulder off, and she's kind of shocked that he was able to feel that. And then it kind of grips his shoulders and like unhinges its jaw, and he again does the same thing, and then she just kicks him out of the bathroom. So she acts very, very cold and really pushes people away to protect them. And so he's kind of fighting through that to get closer with her. Of course, things get a little romantic at some point throughout the story, though this is very minimal. There's not a whole lot that happens. As Thomas spends more time with Vivian, he starts to kind of piece things together and starts to learn a little bit more about what is actually happening with her. He doesn't quite figure it out, but he kind of starts to realize that like things aren't making sense, and starts making connections between like weird things that he sees. For example, he sees a random set of baby teeth on Philip's desk and is like, pretty sure a normal person doesn't have a set of baby teeth just laying around. So eventually it is time for Vivian's surgery. And so all of these people have gathered around, and it's all through this like House of Hades, this cult-like organization. Now, as Vivian is preparing for this, her reflection just disappears. It's completely gone. And it's been gone for a while. So that's kind of concerning. They finally like put her under, and the surgery is about to begin. Thomas, who has stayed with her throughout this entire thing, finally says like, oh, I knew there was something earlier that was bothering me, and now I remembered what it is. I don't think it's like something like this creature to hide and like run away. I think it's hiding like to hunt. And so of course Vivian is asleep, like sedated, and her body just shoots out and grabs the hand of the guy that's performing the operation and just like stops him. And it's like this, almost like this massacre. Like there's not like a count on how many people that she kills, but like it's actually really like terrifying. It was so well written where like, and there's a microphone in this operating room because everyone wants to be able to hear and see what's going on. So she is, you know, speaking through the microphone, and like that's how she really hurts people. So all of these people are kind of losing their minds. There are things in their head. They're, you know, spouting off this like nonsense, and they do escape. Now, some of the people who have joined them on this last part of the journey are Colton Price and Delaney Petrov, who are the main characters in The Whispering Dark. So there is a little tie-in to one of the previous books in this story. So Thomas, like putting all the pieces together, thinks back to the baby teeth and is like, oh, I bet the thing can be controlled. Like there has to be a way. And so he has a bracelet that Vivian made him that says "Cry Baby," and there's a baby tooth on it. So he is just kind of like, hey, you need to stop, let her go. And the creature listens to him and she comes back. So no dice on performing the surgery. And so she is still inhabited by this creature. Now, in addition to Colton Price and Delaney Petrov being introduced to the story, Colton's father, Christian Price, is also introduced. And here's where things get real crazy, because Delaney's mother worked as like a secretary at a law firm. There were two partners. The first partner was the father of Vivian. However, he wanted nothing to do with her. He already had a family of his own. So his other partner, Philip, stepped in, married Vivian's mother, and then raised her. Now, didn't do a great job of it, but he did. And so as they're kind of all talking and putting all these pieces together, they realized that Christian Price was that partner. He is Vivian's dad. Colton Price is her brother. And so now this entire kind of plot comes out, this entire scheme that happened in the past. So quickly going back to the Whispering Dark, Colton Price, his brother was killed. He was dead, and then he kind of came back. And so what happened was Christian Price met this like entity inside this like old abandoned house, and the entity promised him like the secrets to the universe, I guess, in exchange for some sort of blood offering. So that blood offering was the death of his children. So his oldest son did pass away. Colton was initially dead and then came back, and now it's after Vivian. And the creature that's inside of her is different than the one that's like this old entity, but it's kind of protecting her, but it's kind of not. It's like this weird, like, it's like a child. It's described as a child. And so she is kidnapped by Christian Price, taken to this entity that is like in the basement of a house. And he essentially says, like, you know, here's the last sacrifice. I want my knowledge. I've been, you know, building this fraternity that Thomas was a part of, that Colton was a part of, and that's another connection. That's how Thomas got the job. They've been giving like blood sacrifices, but it's not been enough. Like, I need to finish the deal that was made, and Vivian is that final sacrifice. So she kind of, let's just say, dies for the sake of argument, like goes to the other side and is having this conversation with this old entity and the one that was inside of her and her dead older brother, half brother, sorry. There's a lot happening. And Colton, one of his like abilities, I guess, is the ability to walk through into like other universes, and so he's able to walk through and to kind of pull her out of wherever she is. Now, because Thomas is also a part of this fraternity and has gone through some of these early like rituals, he has gone to the other side and come back. So throughout the book, there's like all these hints that like he has seen death, and so you kind of aren't sure like what has happened to him that is the case. But he is trying so hard to get to Vivian, and because he has done it before, he's like actually like hitting the wall between the worlds, and like they can feel it on the other side, which I thought was really cool. So she comes back, the entity inside of her is gone, she and Thomas are together, and there's no need for him to be her bodyguard anymore. In fact, he was fired, so he's probably going to go home to his family. She's trying to decide what she wants to do, but ultimately wants to be wherever he is. And so that sounds like it's the trajectory that they're on at the end of the story. And that is pretty much it for I Am Made of Death. Wrapping up my final thoughts, I think if I were to rank the 3 Kelly Andrew books that I've read, it would probably be Your Blood, My Bones, The Whispering Dark, and I Am Made of Death. I think this is my least favorite of the 3. Not to say that I didn't enjoy it, because I very much did. I think that there were just some things that were missing, and not a whole lot that really like captivated me. Like in Your Blood, My Bones, I was captivated the entire time. Now, that whole surgery scene that I described to you, captivated by that. I think that I thought the connection between Vivian and Colton Price from The Whispering Dark was really cool. I think there were just kind of some gaps that, I don't even know if I want to say gaps or just connections that I wasn't happy with. So typically, I love those sorts of connections. Did I think it was necessary? I didn't. I actually thought maybe I would have enjoyed this book more if it were just like a standalone, but I think she has kind of hinted that all of her books might be connected somehow. So I am interested to see how that plays out in the future. I believe she has another project that she's currently working on. Like Vivian's little mirror creature was super cool. At the end of the story, and maybe I just need to reread it, I didn't think it was really clear like what actually happened to Vivian. So she like kind of dies. Like, she goes into this water, she goes into the other side where she's talking to this like super ancient entity and this little girl version of her, which is the thing that's been living inside of her. And like the old entity is like talking to it like it's a little kid. So that's where we get the thought that like whatever was in her is old, but whatever's here is much older. And so when she comes back, it's just like gone. It's like out of her. She can talk again. Everything's fine. So I don't think that was quite clear. And I think that there could have been maybe a little more explanation about that. Also, and this is like a weird one. I don't know. Have you ever read a book and like you have a feeling and then you don't know why you have that feeling because it shouldn't make sense? I don't know. So at the end, because Vivian technically fulfilled her end of the bargain that Christian Price had with this old entity, he gets all this knowledge that he was seeking, and as I'm sure you can imagine, it's too much and he basically goes insane. I feel like he should have just continued to be this like super nasty, uncaring person. I didn't really like the idea that he was like losing his mind after getting what he wanted. I guess I didn't want him to get what he wanted, I think is what it is. I think I wanted the whole thing to be a lie and him to maybe feel a little bit of remorse for the fact that he sacrificed all 3 of his children for nothing. But him going crazy wasn't my favorite choice. So anyway, I still loved the book. I really enjoyed it. I am still a huge Kelly Andrew fan. I will continue reading anything that she puts out. So please check this out whenever it is released. And if you do read it, let's talk, because I still have more thoughts, but I didn't want to talk for hours and hours in this video. So thank you so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.